We are the oldest continually operating distillery in the United States. We can trace distilling on this location all the way back to 1786. We're starting with that little frontier outpost, that frontier distiller, going to the beginnings of the real bourbon industry after the Civil War, led by E.H. Taylor. We really have the entire history of distilling in Kentucky right here on this location.
I think we all understand that Kentucky is more than just a drink. I mean, it's a lifestyle. I don't know, it's a place where time moves a little bit slower and people are a little bit friendlier. I think part of the bourbon lifestyle is like bourbon takes a while to age and come to perfection, and it's done slowly over time. We take a while to get things done, but when we do it right. When I hear Buffalo Trace, I think about quality. You know, I think about a distillery that makes they make the bourbon that are collector's items.
We are the most awarded distillery in the world.
Something special is going on.
I think the distillery is what makes it special.
You wanna go where the avalanche takes you.
What I love about Buffalo Trace is that they really sort of dive in deep with their history.
If you think about it, the history of bourbon in a lot of ways is the history of Kentucky. The story goes that Leestown was founded by two brothers, Willis and Hancock Lee, who were land surveyors out of Virginia. And they came along the Great Buffalo Trace in the 1770s.
And a lot of what the distillers will tell you is that, bourbon is also an agricultural product. It was born out of this necessity to use up all this leftover corn.
As the settlers were coming in, they were raising the grains, primarily corn, converting that to whiskey. And one of the first distilleries on this site that we know about was built in 1786. And we've been in continuous operation ever since then. We're one of the few distilleries that stayed in production during Prohibition, making medicinal whiskey, which was the only way you could get it legally back then.
It's still medicinal.
Still medicinal, still good for whatever ails you.
You can feel that sense of history in all the buildings. I mean, they're literally hundreds of years old, and sometimes just touching that brick or seeing the old pipes, it kind of transports you back in time.
Like so many things had to happen just right for bourbon to be invented here.
Exactly.
Well,
and the fact that we get 4 distinct seasons.
Weather is a very important thing. Kentucky has really hot summers, but it also has really cold winters. What happens in summer is the barrel expands, and then what happens in winter is the barrel shrinks. And so the actual bourbon, what's sitting inside that barrel, goes into the barrel and out of the barrel. And typically they'll call that one cycle or one season. And that's where you pick up all the flavor and color. It's a remarkable thing, because at the end of the day, you make bourbon, it's in a bottle, and you drink it, and it's done. But the process of making it has such a history.
Our motto is honor tradition, embrace change. And we really do live by that. We believe, though, that the best whiskey is yet to be made. We have a tremendous experimental program. Harlan Wheatley is our master distiller, and I like to call him the mad scientist of the bourbon industry, because if there's a variable that you can tweak when it comes to making bourbon, Harlan either has or he plans to at some point. But he's doing all that within a traditional warehouse.
What's that up the hill, the experimental building?
Well, that's our Warehouse X, and that's where Harlan can really get into some of the aspects of experimentation that you can't do in a traditional warehouse. We can control to a very fine degree light, temperature, airflow, and humidity, which are the 4 factors that you can't control in a traditional warehouse. If there's a better way, and it can be demonstrated as a better way, we'll try it out and we'll do it. But if it works, we're not going to mess with it.
I think that's what we do as craftsmen. It's like we're always trying to figure out how to innovate, but at the same time respect and still anchor yourself to a tradition, so that you have something solid to lean on, or a foundation to stand upon.
I'm not a traditionalist cook. My mind is always roaming. It's very curious, and whenever even like the Korean food that my parents make, I'm always like, Yeah, but what if we put pork rinds in it? To me, the joy of cooking, the true passion that I have, is taking something that's traditional and respecting it and keeping the essence of it the same, but just tweaking it little by little here and there. And, you know, adding something new to the conversation. You know, when I look at the Rider Deluxe and the pellet grill, like, Oklahoma Joe's has a really long tradition of doing the low and slow, the traditional barbecue. And again, in order to innovate, you have to first master the traditions. When you see a product line come out like that, where clearly they've done their homework, they've done their research, and they're respecting their traditions, and they have an anchor in a place where they came from, and it's a joy to see that innovation happen within a company that's also respecting traditions. Well, so we're in the heartland. You know, you're not going to find a lot of seafood restaurants over here. I'm pretty sure Kentuckians eat as much beef, if not more, than Texans. Today, I'm actually doing a smoked short rib. It's, you know, unapologetically big, juicy, meaty, really satisfying. And to me, that kind of it typifies like the ultimate Kentucky meal. This is such a Kentucky Southern dish. It's got all the sort of iconic Southern ingredients. Obviously bourbon. We're cooking with bourbon today. Pickled okra, which is like one of my favorite things ever. Peaches, which are like the most iconic Southern fruit. Mint, and I'm throwing some fennel in there as well to lighten the dish up. Here I'm using the bourbon as a glaze. So we're gonna mix it with a sweet peach jam. And just that sort of, you know, earthy, bourbony, you know, flavor with something sweet, glazed on top of like a juicy smoked piece of meat. All I'm gonna do is salt and pepper, and just the meat side of it. You know, if you think about it, the marriage of those two things, bourbon and grilling, it just seems natural to me. They're both essentially are things that, you know, we're using wood to extract flavor, both in our cooking and in the things that we drink. So the first thing I want to do is make sure that my grill is up to temp. And we're gonna go from anywhere from 10 to 12 hours with this. All right, so now that we're at 225, I wanna load the smoker with my beef short ribs. You set your meat on there, close your door, walk away, come back in a few hours. There's always been that sort of tie-in with bourbon, you know, and food here, because people always drank bourbon with their dinners here. But I think this whole new idea of cooking with bourbon is really starting to take off. This is perfect. You've got that nice caramelized bark on the outside, and it looks really overcooked, but if you open it up, it's beautiful and juicy and tender, and it literally will just fall apart in your hands. That is really good. You know, when I tweak a recipe, I'm never claiming that it's better, but it's just different. It's just another conversation to have. It's just another layer to the dialogue. A little bit of salt, just a pinch of pepper. I'm gonna toss it all in a little bit of olive oil. That piece of equipment does almost everything for you, but you still have to bring your craft to it. And I think that's what ultimately grilling is about. Add a little bit of bourbon, peach jam, and a little cube of butter. Innovation makes it easier, but at the end of the day, like, the person standing behind the grill has to bring the passion and the craft and the love for it. That's a beautiful sear. And if you do that, then it just makes the pellet grill so much easier to use. Just add a little bit more on the side. Here it is. Smoked beef short ribs, peach bourbon glaze, a little bit of grilled veggies and fruits, and pickled okra. There's smokiness coming from the glaze. There's smoke, obviously, from the beef short ribs. It all works. The fruit kind of, you know, matches the saltiness of the beef, and the pickles just brighten everything up. So there's got to be some great stories about this place.
A lot of the stories actually have to do with the fact that the distillery is haunted.
No.
Yes.
Really?
The story goes, one of the real stories is there was a crew that was working in this warehouse, And they were taking a break, kind of leaning against the back wall, chilling a little bit. And the foreman heard a voice, said, "Get out." He just kind of tried to dismiss it, really didn't think much about it, but then it came back a little bit more insistent, "Get out." So he thought, well, okay, well, come on, guys, let's get out of here. About the time they got to the front door, the back wall of the building collapsed. If they'd stayed there, they probably would have been killed. And so that's a story that's been passed down year after year. Yeah. So we've got a lot of stories like that. And some people still claim they've seen ghosts on our ghost tours. They see apparitions and things like that. So hadn't happened to me.
Listen, if it makes the bourbon taste better, it's all good.
Well, yeah, it's all about spirits, right? That's what I tell people on the ghost tour. I can't guarantee that you'll see a ghost, but I guarantee you'll experience spirits, yes.
Some days are just a circus and